Hey everyone, welcome in to Betsperts Golf here for the 2024 Cognizant Classic PGA National at Palm Beaches. The artist formerly known as the Honda Classic here to kick off the Florida swing. Ryan Noonan here alone today. Andy is traveling today, so you just get me by myself to talk about this tournament. We'll keep it easy. We're going to build a model. We'll get into the rabbit hole and really dig into this. And again, I want to reformulate a little bit of the model that I built over the weekend and some more information, thinking about this course, thinking about some stuff, trying to look into it a little bit more. We'll build a little bit more of an extensive model than we typically do when it's just Andy and I, and we don't have his insight today. So it'll just be through my eyes, and again, something that you can access here on the site. So really excited about that. If you're checking this out for the first time, subscribe. We are on YouTube, on the Betsperts YouTube channel. Thumbs up, comments, likes, who you think is taking down this event here at Palm Beaches, PGA National. Also available in podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts as well. So check that out. Real quick, Mexico, kudos to Jake Knapp. That was a really, I think, a strong showing for 3 days. I think winning golf tournaments is hard. We saw that kind of how things got on Sunday. I tweeted about this a little bit of like Knapp FOMO, because I use an odds screen to look in shop for these betting lines. And on Monday morning, and I'm an early Monday morning outright better. You just probably see that in the numbers. Typically, by the time I get here on Tuesday, by the time my article gets posted on Betsperts on Tuesday morning, typically, we get more times than not the best of the number, because you'll see some stuff that will move. There was an odds screen that had Knapp available at 80. That actually never existed in real life. But like the cognitive shaking of my brain, I couldn't separate that. So when actually I went into that book, there were no golf odds posted. By the time Knapp became available on that book and subsequent books, he was down to like 45. And now, look, we're dealing with a Corn Ferry guy. We have limited data, a little bit harder to even make a case for Knapp, even at 80, I guess. But I was in at 80. I was interested in the length, long iron play, what we had seen prior from him that seemed like what we thought was going to work at Mexico would be a good fit. But I couldn't get past the fact that I thought that there was going to be an 80, and I couldn't pull the trigger on a 45. And then, instantly, especially on like Friday, Saturday afternoon when he was, making a run there, I definitely had some FOMO. So, hey, winning golf tournaments is hard. Kudos, even though it was felt like a public community win that I was not in on. Ron and I kind of bemoaned that yesterday on our first look show here. Hey, kudos to everyone. Take it down an outright even at 45, 40, 35, whatever you got. Like that's a nice ticket. And winners have been hard to come by so far this season. So kudos to Knapp, who is in the field this week, and a better field than we have seen here, I guess, especially last year. This place was, it's a interesting course. I think makes for some great golf from a viewing standpoint. It was kind of bastardized last year in terms of where it was in the schedule, right? It was in the middle of 5. It was the middle event of 5 with 2 signature events in front and 2 behind. It was a natural bye week for the majority of the top players, and we got a significantly weaker field than I think this place had hoped for, and I think probably led to Honda pulling out as a title sponsor and all this shifting and shaping that's happened there. But again, with Mexico moving up a little bit, with the way things have kind of moved this year, a little bit better of a field. We start the Florida swing now with 4 straight Florida events leading into some really good golf. API next week, Players coming shortly thereafter, and then we go to Innisbrook for the Valspar. So like some challenging courses, some great fields. This field is better. Like I said, we have, Rory's here. So we definitely Rory at the top, using Ron's course preview here at Betsperts Golf. 19 of the top 50 in the fields. And then, again, some different spattering of names for guys that were like really the top of the board last year. So at least having Rory here, I think helps it a little bit. So interesting to see how we attack that this week. So, again, if you want to check this out, Ron's preview on Betsperts Golf, I think just there's nothing better on the site. It is lengthy. It is extensive. It is actionable. which I think is and unique. I think there's a lot of like copy and pasted type of previews that are out there in the space, and Ron's is not that. It is pretty awesome. So check it out. It is a exciting. We're gonna hear the bear trap. Say a drinking game with your buddies this week. How many times you hear bear trap? Take a shot. It is the 15, 16, 17 stretch here. Very, very difficult stretch. We're in Florida, so we have a ton of water. This course has changed from a par 70 out to a par 71 this year. The 10th hole, which is I think the first or second hardest hole over the last handful of years, has been stretched out about 15 to 20 yards, depending on where they put the tees, out from a par 4 to a par 5. That's going to help a little bit. It'll help scoring. Scoring the par average will probably still be, less than par. Last year, I think the cut line was +1, and that's typically where you've been the last handful of years, depending on the wind. The wind's a massive factor here because there could be some carnage. This wind kicks up here, and there's water in play. It's a pretty volatile tournament. I typically am a little bit lighter pre-tournament from an outright standpoint because I want to leave myself a little bit of room where you can get some of these guys at the top of the board or some of the guys that you like at the top of the board or maybe balking on because of the price at longer odds once we get into the tournament, depending on, again, a water ball that pushes them back and all of a sudden like they're a little bit further down, or Rory goes from, 7 pre-tournament, 6.5 in some spots. And all of a sudden, after a poor opening 9, Rory's out there at, 15 or something like that. That's going to happen here. So I think this is a spot where, looking in, if you're watching the tournament, there are some live betting opportunities, especially if you like to bet into finishing position markets or outrights, more so than most weeks. So for me, pre-flop, a little bit lighter. And then I just, again, I will take in a good amount of this tournament and I will probably jump in somewhere live, which I think is advisable. So I mentioned the field here. Again, you want to see a little bit of the course history. This is not a spot where course history has been super actionable. And this is over, again, part of Ron's preview here. You see, typically this would be a spot in the past, like pre-live, where you'd see a lot of like the Euro guys who call, Florida home. It's their, US home, would typically make their debut. And you've seen some of these guys that have performed pretty well here at the top. This is maybe a little bit harder to see if you're watching on YouTube and not a great listen if you are checking us out via podcast. But again, find the YouTube page as well. And again, you can find this on Ron's preview to kind of go through guys and see who's done well, but not a super duper actionable course history place. Yeah, just even scanning this here, you could see, Ricky won in 17, missed the cut in 18, came back, finished top 2 in 19, missed the cut again. Sepp Straka's played pretty well here. Last handful of years has missed the cut here. Woodland has made the cut for the most part since dating back to 16, but again, flirting with the leaderboard a little bit here and there. But some not great finishes. Lucas Glover, same. We see some missed cuts here, sprinkling of T20s. Billy Horschel, same exact thing, mixing a top 10s in here and missing some cuts. So not a spot where I would lean heavily on specific PGA National results. We can look into some leading indicators in terms of Florida golf or difficult courses. We'll do some of this work here when we dig into the rabbit hole. So this is part of Ron's preview that you should definitely check out. I think from a just kind of breaking into the course, things that matter, stats that matter. We'll get into this. Again, there's a ton of water here. You'll hear the bear trap, but it's not just that. There are a lot of, I think, 15, 16 holes where water is in play. Water is in play off the tee often. So you need to be really, I think strategic is not the word because, I think Andy Lack does a good job on his Inside Golf podcast of talking about this stuff. Like there's not a ton of strategy when there's a ton of water, to be honest. It kind of ties your hands. Like you have to play positional golf. It's not this or that. It's simply not that, right? I can't go to the water. I need to play positional golf in terms of setting myself up for the next shot, or even where I need to come in from my approach, because right, there are going to be some approaches where, hey, a right miss isn't okay. That's going to find the drink. And, I have to kind of play to the middle of the green or I have to play to the left. So there's not, I think sometimes when we have water, or we have a course like this, they can play hard. I think strategy is a word that's thrown around, whereas I think that's not necessarily the case. But you have to execute your shots. You have to hit to the right spots, avoid the trouble, avoid the water, and give yourself the chances to have scoring opportunities on the limited number of holes where they're available. You can see some of this here too. There's Ron's got more course features here. Get an understanding of if you want to watch some of that too, the flyover and stuff. The actual scorecard you can see here with it change on the number 10 stretched out to a par 5, which I think is going to be a little bit easier. Breaks that up a little bit as they turn down the stretch. You can see here too, from a strokes gain standpoint, all this red is telling you basically this is harder than a standard tour average event. It is harder to gain strokes on approach here. It is harder to gain off the tee. Good drive percentage lower than a standard event. Driving distance is lower because of the forced layup and the nature of just sometimes having to take less than driver. And we'll get into that here as well. They are seemingly trying to make it a little bit easier, as Ron touches on here. The rough seems to be down a little bit from like 2.5 to maybe 2.25 or so. We have a couple spots maybe where fairways are a little bit wider in terms of how they've mowed. Not a substantial difference, but maybe a little bit. So again, with a stronger field, if the winds don't kick up, I do think you can, again, we saw last year, again, I mentioned +1 was the cut, and we saw, that Chris Kirk, Eric Cole battle here down the stretch last year, and you needed to get into the low teens. I think we're probably still there, low to mid teens from a outright winner standpoint. But again, to make the weekend, you're probably going to need to just be right around par, which is, again, not what we've seen here of late. We've had numerous birdie fests, putting contests. All right, so you can see here, Ron, again, this is Ron's preview, more analysis there. Definitely worth the read. Again, the most actionable that you could possibly find there pre-tournament. A lot of sand in terms on top of a lot of water. Again, another commonality throughout Florida. Sand saves is, I think, a pretty noisy stat. I think it is something that you can look at in the rabbit hole, but not something I would spend a ton of time on. You got to scramble a little bit here too. You want to, obviously we're making the shift to Florida, so we're making the shift to these Bermuda greens, and we have some Bermuda specialists or some guys that, or opposite too, maybe some West Coast specialists that we want to target in matchups and fade a little bit, guys that struggle a little bit more when they move here to the Bermuda versus the POA and West Coast POA that we have there a little bit. So again, you can find all these details here on Ron's preview, and this is, I think, important too from Ron's standpoint. PGA Splits 101 on Twitter. If you're not familiar with Ron by name, he's giving you basically his key to building a model on the rabbit hole, which I think is important too. So what matters from Ron's vantage point. So let's look here real quick at the opening odds board. We'll look over with our friends at FanDuel. Well, I was searching around a little bit. Look at the win only market. Rory at the top here. And again, you could shop this, and I recommend that you do. But for the sake of the show, we will show FanDuel's here. Rory at 7, Cam Young, 22. Eric Cole has been a popular early bet here in the first, let's say, 24, 36 hours since bets have been posted. Eric Cole at 25. Russell Henley, it's going to be really hard to run a model this week and not have Russell Henley come out within the top 10, I would say. It's just a matter of what do you do with that. Russell Henley is could be a tricky cat in terms of betting outrights and can lead to a lot of heartbreak at times. But again, I'd assume he'd be competitive here. A couple interesting ones here into the next fold. Matthew Fitzpatrick. I thought Matthew Fitzpatrick would be a little bit lower, or I guess shorter, I guess I would say, maybe in that Cam Young, Eric Cole range. And again, he's not too far off at 28. There were some 30s on Fitz, who's played decent here and is a nice fit, I think. 28 on Benny Ann. Benny Ann has been a very popular click here early in the week. Tom Kim as well at 30. JT Poston, Minwoo Lee, all sub 40 as well. Some of the other ones that I think are pretty interesting here. Surprised to see Sanjay has not been playing great, but Sanjay at 40 is pretty long relative to Sanjay, and we'll see kind of what the rabbit hole spits out in terms of what we need to think of. So 40 is pretty loaded. Adam Svensson down at 40. Shop Svensson line. If you like it, and we'll get to that later, there is I think a 50 and a 55 in the market still. Corey Connors, obviously ball striking wizard. Putting becomes its own thing here. Keith Mitchell, there are longer numbers, or definitely were longer numbers on Mitchell at Open. 40 there. Sepp Straka won here back in 2022 and has played well here. And again, a Georgia Bulldog, and that's same thing. Keith Mitchell, Russell Henley. We have a lot of these southeastern Georgia, Florida type guys that have performed well here too. Shane Lowry, nice course history. You saw him at the top of that course history trend. Lowry lives very close to this course, plays here often, and has been competitive and back into better form than what we saw towards the tail end of last year. So his 40 range here is loaded. Steven Yeager's been playing really good golf. Backed him last week. Got in the mix a little bit late. Again, finished in the top 5. Did not catch the win for me. Obviously, catch a nice top 20 at plus money. And Steven Yeager's been playing some good golf. Daniel Berger is an interesting case. Again, nice course history. Again, played at Florida State, is a southeastern guy. We would want to target Berger on these types of golf courses. Again, there's obviously risk and concerns with Berger coming back, not playing last year. So that's a concern, but I feel like you can make a case that that's probably already baked into the number because we had a healthy Daniel Berger. He's not posted at 40. Chris Kirk at 45. Again, your defending champ before we get down into the rest of that. So yeah, it definitely an interesting odds board. And again, this is FanDuel specific. Shopping is super important for any betting that you're doing. Do not get locked into a single book. Keep all of your money there, especially in golf, no matter how you're betting golf, outrights, matchups, finishing positions, all of it. Shopping is such a key element in what you want to do here. So shop that around. But let's jump into things a little bit here. I want to share with you too, if you're not familiar with our partner here at Vivid Picks, they're offering a fantastic way for you to get access to all that we're doing here at BetSports Golf for super duper cheap. If you're not familiar, Vivid Picks, same company, parent company, Vivid Seats, secondary ticket market. It's been around for a very long time, trusted company. It is a DFS pick'em site, similar to some other ones that are out there. Prize Picks, Underdog, some other things like that. They have a very aggressive first deposit match bonus. If these are games you like to play, you can't bet everything in your state, and maybe you like to play these DFS pick'em games. Vivid Picks is a great way to do it. Their first deposit match is up to $250. That is by far the best in the industry. So again, if this is something that you like to do and these are games you like to play, check it out. They have offerings for all sports. There's also a social element to it too, where if you follow me and we bet the same play, you tail my card, we get added Vivid bucks. We get added bonus boost to the play. There's also some specific BetSports golf boosts that we do each week too. I go ahead and email their traders and ask for them to, manipulate a line for us in round 1 and stuff like that. So there are definitely some advantageous ways to take advantage of this if you are, kind of dip your toes into these waters. If you're looking to simply circumvent the full price BetSports Golf subscription and you just want to get it for cheap, a $5 deposit and play on Vivid Picks, and you get full access to BetSports Golf for the 2024 season. It's $100, $200 is the full price for the year. We are raising that, FYI. Let's take advantage of this. Even if you can't take advantage of the Vivid deal, that price and all prices are going up shortly. So you want to take advantage of that. We'll give you notice on that. I probably around the Masters or so. So more information on that to come. Again, you need to deposit and play. Within 48 hours, you'll get an email of how to activate your subscription. You can see here, Vivid's only available in 28 states. If you cannot take advantage of this Vivid deal, DM us on Twitter at BetSports Golf, and we will give you the best promo code that we can. It's an affiliate deal. I can't get you a $5 subscription to BetSports Golf, but I can get as aggressive as we possibly can to get you in and get your hands on the rabbit hole, get you in our Discord, get all the official plays, read all the content, all the other tools, DFS Optimizer. We have some matchup betting tools. We'll have some tools on the Pick'em site specifically. You like to play on Underdog or Prize Picks, we'll have some of those tools coming very, very, very soon as well. So I think this is a great way for you to kind of get a feel for what we're doing at BetSports Golf. I think it is an interesting time in the space. Also want to talk to you about another one of our partners real quick. If you are a one and done fan, we'll talk one and done a little bit. Our friends over at Pool Genius, if you're familiar, like team rankings, this is their one and done tool. It is fantastic. And right now they have a limited time free trial. If you sign up, just check it out. And again, this is a free article over on the site. If you kind of don't want to rely on luck anymore, you can add a little bit of more science and data to your one and done process. Again, Pool Genius one and done picks is your secret weapon for dominating this season. You can customize pick advice based on your pool size, pool tournament, and past picks. Data-driven pick grades highlighting the best strategic options for your one and done. So again, it is customized. There's in-depth golfer data, rankings, betting odd history, all that stuff. It saves you hours of research and tracking picks across multiple tools. Again, if you are using multiple one and done tools, this will save you a ton of time scanning through this here on the YouTube channel. But yeah, this is I think a really cool tool. And again, limited time, free trial. You can find more information here in our show notes on the show, in the podcast, or on YouTube. You can visit poolgenius.com today. You can take advantage of that link and check it out. I think it's a really nice tool. Again, like people are one and dones have like taken off in terms of popularity. So check that out. All right, let's build a model. What matters here this week? Again, no Andy, so no insight from Andy this week. I'm going to try to knock this out and give you guys some insight of what I think matters. We like to have an anchor stat. What I mean by that is something that is, I think more of the stable, long-term strokes gained stats that I think are sticky, that I think are going to give us a better of just, hey, who are the better golfers? Because let's be honest, we're building a model that's going to try to lead us down this wormhole into filling out a betting card or building out a player pool for DFS. But we also do want to be smart and make sure that we are not getting so overfitted and over granular in what we're looking to capture that we're not actually getting the best golfers towards the top, right? So looking at some of the either strokes gained total, strokes gained tee to green, strokes gained approach, ball striking, those things typically are what I think we should be capturing from an anchoring standpoint. So there are some other ways that I want to do it too. So let's jump into it. Let's mess around and play around with tee to green here, and play around with a couple different sizes. These are some things that we've talked about here on the show. If you're seeing this for the first time, or if you're checking out the rabbit hole, there's this little watch tutorial button. You want to get a sense of like what this is, and I'm going too fast. It's probably true. This tutorial, familiar voice. You can watch that and get a sense of how to build out a model. All right, but let's look here. We'll go over, let's say, the last 50 rounds, and we'll go to the last calendar year. And let's just see who is solid tee to green. Now, what you can also do here is some things that are unique in terms of how you display these results. This is currently baking in ranking. How do these golfers rank compared to their peers in the field? You can also look at the average strokes gained, look at the total strokes gained over this time frame, or also, which I think is super useful, percentage of rounds gained. So it gives you an understanding of consistency a little bit. How often are they gaining strokes in that category? So let's look again, 12 months, last 50 rounds, strokes gained tee to green. No surprise, we see Rory McIlroy at the top, Doug Ghim, Lucas Glover. We're still getting, obviously, that absolute heater of Lucas Glover at the tail end of last season. Steven Yeager, Corey Connors, Russell Henley, Shane Lowry, Adam Svensson, Callum Tarrant, interesting, and Eric Cole capturing tee to green here over the last set of 50 rounds. Now you see here, this is interesting, Jake Knapp, just outside the top 10 at 11. We only have 18 rounds of Jake Knapp here in this time set of the last 12 months, last 50 rounds. So this gives you an idea, and this shows you total rounds, and then parentheses is shot link rounds. Obviously, we have these alt events, swing season stuff. Not all of that is captured. You can see again Troy Merritt here right below that, 46 shot link rounds versus 50 total rounds. I think that's important to understand here too. You can click into this. It'll show you what those rounds are. You can also go right here and set a minimum feature. This will actually, minimum rounds feature, will kind of weed out a little bit of the small sample noise, just for the sake of it too. And again, this is harder when you have some of these Jake Knapps of the world, when these guys weren't around last season. So, we want to make sure we're not they're not getting too much credit for their great recent form. And again, I did 16, so we'll still get NAPS data in here. But it'll, sometimes you're just going to have guys in this, no matter the sample, that are played 8 rounds, 4 rounds, and that changes kind of how you would weight things. So we'll go ahead and add this. All you need to do to add this to your mixed condition model is click on that plus. You can make a note here, and I will do that for the sake of this because we'll probably do a lot of things. Strokes gained tee to green, last 50 rounds. And we'll add that. I want to do this as well, but I want to go maybe smaller time frame. I'm going to keep the time frame 12 months, but I'm going to go, let's go last 24 rounds. This is going to capture some just recent form 2024 stuff. You can actually go up here to season and just make it 2024 if you like. But I don't want to mess around with some guys. I'm going to just capture everyone's last 24 rounds and grab just maybe, hey, who's playing better of late? You can see different list. Doug Gim, Keith Mitchell pops in here. Knapp still up here. Chris Kirk. Novak's been playing some good golf. Joel Damon, Benny Ann. And again, we're still capturing the tail end of Lucas Glover. We'll do this too. Do the same thing. Strokes gained. Tee to green. Last 24. All right. So I want to get into some unique things here that we can do on the rabbit hole that you cannot do anywhere else. I think this is a great week to do that. If you go in here into filter by conditions. Now, again, this view section has a ton of stuff. You're going to get all your off the tee approach, fairway and rough approaches broken down for you. Your around the green, putting ranges, scoring, your par efficiencies, some miscellaneous stuff. There's different ways to look in views, and then filter by condition is also, I'll be honest, somewhat overwhelming. And I wouldn't overfit. This is where you can get into an issue where you start to click on too many things and you start to have a really, really, really noisy small sample of stuff. So I would do these a couple at a time, one at a time, to get a sense of what you're trying to look at. So you can mess around with scoring conditions, how easy it is to score here. We know that this is probably a, on the difficult side, difficult to very difficult. The course length, I think Ron and I touched on this on the Monday preview show. We looked at very short, and average, because again, this is a par 71 now, around 7,100 yards, depending on where the tee markers are for the day. That's shorter relative to, typical event, especially at a par 71 now, because we didn't do a ton to 10 in terms of distance. So again, just if you were to click and look at very short, and average, you're essentially ruling out the long and very long courses, which I think is relevant. Round by round stuff, first round leader, showdown stuff. I think it's very useful to look into, large sample of, round one stuff. It could be a little bit noisy. You can look at AM, PM scoring as well. Again, smaller sample, a little bit noisy, but if it's like confirmation bias on the guy that you like, go for it. Again, you can chop this up any way that you like. Event season, I think, is really, really cool. You see, you actually have Florida season in here. I can mess around with field size. We have a ton of water damage, which we will get to. We want to just chop it up based off of it, being on Bermuda greens, all these different things that you can see. I want to get into a few of these here for this week. What I'm going to do is go to course region. Now, again, you can see a list of states. You can see a list of regions. You saw that we could also do in the conditions simply selecting Florida. But I want to do that here. I want to look at Florida courses and click on that, hit apply. I'm going to mess around with my sample a little bit and back out. You can see we haven't been to Florida since this time last year. But let's look at the last 3 years. And again, we have these 4 straight Florida courses that I think have some commonalities. So I think this is a useful look. I pushed back on this when we talked about doing it for California a couple of weeks ago, because I think the range of California courses is pretty vast. Now you're going to find some corollaries, I guess, if you're looking around for stuff at, say, Torrey Pines for Farmers and Pebble, but not really. And if I'm not, when I'm thinking about those golf courses, I don't think of like Torrey's driver heavy. The rough can get pretty thick. Yeah, it's a coastal course, but I think of like Pebble can be more exposed to the wind. There's more less than driver holes on Pebble. The green sizes are very different. So like there's a lot of difference between that and like PGA West. There's just not a lot of like carryover. Where there's, I think, in the Florida courses where we're, like I said, we're here down the stretch, API, a lot of water. Off the tee is going to matter there a lot. You have to be able to navigate that. Difficult, more difficult from a scoring condition standpoint. Sawgrass for the players. Definitely a wild year-to-year leaderboard, not sticky course history-wise. Similar because there's so much water again that positional golf becomes really important. You have to manage off the tee, less than driver, all those types of things. Innisbrook may be a little bit different, but again, a little bit of corollary. And I think there's some stuff there in terms of, Florida golf. And obviously you're going to catch the Bermuda stuff that you're trying to capture there as well. So this is useful to me and actionable. So go into course region, Florida. And again, I'm selecting the last 24 rounds. Let's just back up and I'm going to put in 50. We're probably not going to get 50 for most of these guys. And you can see here, Sanjay 42, and Sanjay plays everything. So I have a minimum round feature. I'll make it a little bit shorter. We'll go 12 rounds. And let's just look, strokes gained total, last 3 years in Florida. And you can see I'm getting 87 of the 140 or so guys in the fields. Again, maybe you don't like that, but I think it's useful. And we'll capture some other data on those guys, but I think I want to see who's playing well in Florida over this time frame. Matthew Fitzpatrick and Daniel Berger. Looks like they are tied from a strokes gained total standpoint last 3 years in Florida. Daniel Berger, not a lot of data, 16 rounds. He just makes the cut in terms of our small sample stuff. But I think it's useful still because Berger has played these courses really well. He's played well at Sawgrass. Has been really competitive here. Back-to-back times teeing it up here. He's been inside the top 5. So I think this is telling a story that is useful. And that's what we're trying to do, is use this, build a model that tells a useful story for us this week. Corey Connors has played really well here around the green. No surprise, not always his strength, but the rest of the game has been pretty exceptional. Chris Kirk won here last year. Shane Lowry, we talked about, lives really close, has played really good golf of late and has played well here as well. Sanjay, 6th. Rory, 7th. Has not played here a lot, but again, played a decent amount of Florida golf. Justin Suh, again, small sample, made his debut here last year with the top 5, and that's definitely helping him as well. Davis Riley, surprising. Again, we're capturing this Innisbrook win from a couple seasons ago. He is not in good form, but has played well in Florida. Russell Henley, Cam Young, Ben Griffin, rounding out our top 10, even though Griffin, again, just scrambling his face off to make his way into the top 12 here. A ball striking approach, not great. But again, I'm going to add this to the model, and I think it's really useful. I'm going to go strokes gained, Florida, and add this. All right. I'm going to back out of this. We're going to reset this course region. I'm going to go back into the conditions, and I want to look at less than driver, because if you read a lot of the quotes, and Ron has a bunch of them in his preview, golfers in this field are talking about how this course and this event forces a lot of less than driver. This is a unique stat or a unique filter condition that you will not find anywhere else. This is hand charted. So it is not, it's correct. These are spots where this is actually charted by Ron, PGA Splits, doing this work. And again, helps us tell a better story. So let's look at off the tee club less than driver. And we get a sense of, this is where I like Andy. We can capture strokes gained total. We can capture strokes gained. I think maybe strokes gained off the tee. Let's look at some of the off the tee stuff. When we're going less than driver, I'm going to say in the same time frame, I want to capture last 50 rounds. A lot of off the tee stuff. I want probably the biggest sample that I can get. I think it tells a better story. We can go here, strokes gained off the tee, last 50 rounds. And some of these guys aren't getting there. You can see over the last 3 years of data, some of these guys are really pushing close. But Sanjay, Pendrith, Corey Connors again, Hayden Buckley. And again, Hayden Buckley, I think he was first and off the tee in Florida, which is interesting. He's you can see his distance from the edge of the fairway, his driving accuracy. Like Hayden Buckley is going to give himself fairways, which I think matters a great deal here. Tyler Duncan, another guy, is going to give himself a ton of fairway looks. Not a guy that he's like, you see 6,100 DraftKings salary this week for T Dunk. Not a guy that we typically talk about often, but T5 here last year. So maybe there's something to it. Minwoo Lee, limited number of measured rounds, but again, really competitive last year at Sawgrass, kind of folded like a cheap shirt on Sunday against Scotty, but is, a wild range of outcomes for Minwoo Lee. Feels like a guy that can go anywhere and win against any field, and then can absolutely slam the trunk on Friday afternoon if he is spraying it and not dialed in elsewhere. Luke List, Cam Young, Keith Mitchell, Russell Henley, rounding out the top 10. So I'm going to go strokes gained off the tee here. This is less than driver, strokes gained off the tee. You don't have to do this description part. This is simply for me. When we get into the weight section, it's going to help, since I'll probably have a few others that are strokes gained totals. All right, I'm going to close this out. Let's go back into the condition section. I'm streaming here. This is moving pretty quick, so good stuff. Love to see it. All right, a lot of water damage, guys. This is not a lot of spots that I would want to do this at, but danger level is high. So let's look at who performs well when water danger is high. We're looking off the tee. I think that's useful. And you can see here, hey, good players. Rory, Sanjay, Cam Young again, Luke List, again, Keith Mitchell, Hayden Buckley, Corey Connors. These guys keep popping up. But let's go back and just, hey, let's go strokes gained total. We have last 50 rounds, last 3 years. We're getting this sample, which I think is pretty interesting here. Let's just see who performs well when water is in play. Because again, I'm not going to go off the tee because water is in play in the approach shots too. So we'll just go strokes gained. Let's go strokes gained tee to green. I think that tells a better story. I think some of the Florida stuff is going to capture some of our, maybe I'll go back to that too. That's going to capture some of our Bermuda putting stuff that we want to look at. And we will capture strokes gained, tee to green. And we are looking at, again, you can see here, water danger. I'm going to go back in and do that real quick so I don't miss that. So I think I want to capture that specifically. Let's go back into Florida specifically. I'm going to apply that. I'm going to take the water danger off. And I want to look at strokes gained. We can do strokes gained putting. You could do strokes gained short game to get a sense of like how do people chip as well. Typically, we don't have, Ron laid this out in the course preview, we don't have Bermuda necessarily around the greens because this time of year we're still a little bit overseeded with a rye mix. Again, we're really getting into the weeds here. But I think this is, interesting as well. Maybe we could just do putting. I don't know what you guys think, but I like capturing the short game stuff. I think it's a little bit more interesting because it gives you a sense of around the green and putting. I think that tells an interesting story. But I also just kind of like going down here and looking at where there's a delta between, guys that are maybe being a little bit more rewarded for putting versus short game, and see where there are some challenges. Chesson Hadley here pops out first, putting top 5 on Bermuda. His strokes gained short game in Florida, definitely towards the middle of the pack. Some other guys that kind of pop here. Vic Perez, smaller sample for Victor Perez, has putted well. Strokes gained short game, not as strong. Berger, looking good. Seabez, looking good for both. So actually interesting, not a huge number of guys with the delta that I would expect to see as you go down. Because again, I think this is really useful. This to me is something that I like to do with like driving distance and carry distance. I like to do it off the tee when you get into like distance from the edge of the fairway and driving accuracy. Driving accuracy, I think, is a very noisy stat that's generally accepted in a lot of like circles in terms of research. It's a binary stat, guys. Like it is, right? Fairway hit, yes, no. What you're really trying to do while capturing driving accuracy is say, hey, how accurate is the guy off the tee but not like necessarily like we have a lot of these courses like this where positional golf matters. So like if you could tell me his distance from the edge of the fairway is is really good. It's telling me he's like in the middle of the fairway more, or he's not like just burning edges. That tells me that he probably has a little bit more control than just your standard yes, no. So looking in conjunction with the two, and let's just look at it real quick. Again, this is going to be not a sample that I would love because we're looking at Florida courses. I think you can make a case that that matters this week. I went strokes gained off the tee, with like high water damage. You can look at this from a Florida standpoint. You'll look at it from a good drive percentage, which is again looking at on 4s and 5s, the numbers of fairways hit plus the number of greens and reg. So basically, are they giving them a putt, in regulation from the fairway? So it's a combination of approach and off the tee. You see here, distance from the edge of the fairway, the average distance in feet and inches from the edge of the fairway when the player misses the fairway. So I think it's useful in terms of like spraying and praying versus just looking at driving accuracy. So like, are you just barely missing the fairway, or are you like all over the place? Same thing, carry distance versus driving distance gives you a sense of rollout. We wanted that last week in Mexico. You think carry distance on those paspalum fairways was more a useful tell versus driving distance, where you can have some maybe firm and fast fairways, bouncy rollouts, things of that nature. So again, these are things you can do in the rabbit hole that you cannot do anywhere else. All right, so let me go back to where I was here. We were trying to capture strokes gained short game in Florida. So let's just do putting. And 12 rounds minimum, or we're backed out here for as much as we can. So this is strokes gains putting Florida. Again, you could just go in and simply select the Bermuda grass if you like. Knock yourself out. Multiple ways to skin the cat. All right. So we captured, let's see here. Let me see what this is telling us they have. Losing track. All right. So I got strokes gained, tee to green in a couple different buckets. I got Florida. I have less than driver off the tee. I have water damage, and I have Florida. This is a good amount of things. Let's get into, there's definitely one more thing that I want to add here. So let's go into, again, you can go into, if you want to get into the approach buckets, you have a high number of approach that are in the 125 to 200 range bucket. You can simply look at, you can look at fairway numbers. You can look at rough numbers in the different view here as well. And you can add these if you like. I think it's definitely a way to look this week. I have some of the things that we already looked at here. Like I said, we're looking at strokes gained tee to green in a couple of different ways. We're looking at strokes gained Florida. So I'm kind of capturing a little bit of approach in there. It's the one stat that I'm okay with people double counting, triple counting even, because it's the most sticky and relevant stat to success is approach. So that would be the one way that you can do that. I want to look at scoring a little bit here. You want to avoid trouble. I want to look at avoiding bogeys here this week. You can look into birdie or better opportunities. You can look at the scoring on specific, par 4, par 5 ranges if you'd like. Knock yourself out. That's all in here as well. I want bogey avoidance. I want bogey avoidance because I'm trying to stay away from those really crooked numbers this week. So I want to add this to my model here as well. So again, I'm going to look at bogey avoidance. Now again, you can mess around with time frame. You can mess around with this round sample. I always think in golf modeling, you probably want to defer to having the longest view in the room. Just getting yourself a larger sample. It's more actionable. It's going to kind of filter out the noise of, capturing guys in short-term form that maybe just they're California West Coast specialists. And now we're moving to the East Coast, and the really short-term form stuff is telling us a story that's maybe not super relevant for what we're trying to do here this week. So be cognizant of that. Hey, cognizant. That wasn't even intentional. Be cognizant of it. All right, let's create a mixed condition model. You got to name it at the top. We are working on a little widget here that will help you do this math. so you will know where you're at in terms of your weights. This will be, we'll do Noonan betting show PGA National. Course name will not change. Sponsors may. You can see here, if you scroll down, you can save a ton of these bad boys. The dev team right now is working on making sure that you can run any previous model, regardless of the updated field. So even though like you ran the Pebble Beach model with the Pebble Beach field, I should be able to run, say if I had a couple of like, driving accuracy. I ran this during the, a specific field. I wanted to be able to be like just a rolling form driving accuracy report or driving, or, you can see there's just a bunch of them. If you want to have like a rolling form one, we're making sure that that's updated for you and you can go ahead and look at that each week, which is really, really cool. One other thing I want to go back to and show you here as well, if you're seeing this for the first time, a couple of cool features. You can download all these into a CSV. You like to make your own models. You want to go off to Excel and just continue to chop and slice and do whatever you want. Download it into a CSV, something you can't do anywhere else. It's pretty cool. Very, very useful. You want to see other models that the staff have built. I think we still get some Mexico models here we got to turn off. You can see another model that I built. You want to see what Andy Lack, again, host of the Inside Golf podcast. Andy's got his model on here. We'll have some other stuff here. You can see Matt Vicenzi. I'll have Matt's model up here this week as well. Looks like Lack updated a model. So he's got his original, and then he's also got an updated model. You want to see what other people are doing. Again, not to get the answers to the key to the test, but I think it's like what did I do in my model? And what is Lack doing? What's Noonan doing? What's Kloss doing that I'm not doing? And maybe I need to try to capture in mine and needs you somewhere else. So I think it's just, again, another resource to help you build the betting card, help you hone in on your bets for the week. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's mess around with the weights and play around. These are my anchor stats. I want to go a little bit bigger. Let's go 25% tee to green last 50 rounds. I want to capture a little bit of this, but again, as I said, last 24 rounds, I don't want to do too much because some of these guys could have just been playing a ton here on the West Coast, or they're not necessarily going to benefit a ton from now being in Florida. So I'm going to go 10 there. Let's go 15 for strokes gained Florida. Less than driver strokes gained off the tee. I think that's a useful stat. This is where the soon to be upgraded tool is going to be super helpful. So I don't have to do this math for you guys live on the show. Just like not great. Let's see here. We'll mess around with this. Let's go 12.5. And we'll go 12.5 for water damage or water danger being high as well. That gets us another 25. So that means I have another 25 left for these last few. So let's just go. Let's make it easy for the sake of the show. Let's keep the math clean. Oh man, that was easy. So again, you could do whatever you want here in terms of weights. You can, again, that's another thing you can look at. You can be like, hey, I kind of like some of the things that I saw, but I would want to weigh it different. Totally your call. Again, there are a lot of ways to do this, and that's the beauty of handicapping golf. Again, I click this button that you won't have, but this will allow you to see this once it's done. Click and save and generate model. Let's see what it spits out. We probably should have Rory McIlroy at the top. I would guess some of the other names that we saw here probably be pretty. Corey Connors. Very interesting. Not surprising. I was going to say Connors should probably be pretty high based off of what we saw there when we were looking kind of at some of the individual buckets. Where did Corey Connors? I'm going to go back to Ron's course history. I just want to see what Connors has done here. See if there's any there. Again, Connors tee to green can be, just absolutely electric sometimes. Just when he gets on and around the green, it can be a little bit tricky. All right. Not finding Connors. Let me find Connors in a different way. Let's make it a little bit easier. Surprised that we got Connors at the very top of the model. Let's take a look at it. Again, it's named the rabbit hole for a reason, guys. Like, this is what happens. All of a sudden, it leads you down the road a little bit. Let's maybe start looking at some other guys. So Connors has played here twice. Last year, missed the cut. Ball striking was absolutely horrid. Lost 1.25 strokes per round on approach, and 1.5 on the greens, which is totally on brand. Sorry, I'm gonna grab a sip of water here. Solo is, it's a lot. It's a lot of talking. Right, let's go deeper into Connors here a little bit. We also have player pages in the works. Really excited about it. Tournament pages too. Tournament pages will be first. Player pages, absolutely stoked to get those out here. We'll be able to like hover over Connors, click in, and look at where he's gone in recent form, and get all these different rabbit hole stats all visible to you at once. This is going to be super duper cool. All right. Connors, yeah, last time out, 24th at the Genesis. So, he's been Corey Connors. Has not been like really competitive since the St. Jude and BMW. Nice little run there in playoff season. But again, he's been pretty consistent here, as he typically is, gaining strokes, tee to green, especially on approach off the tee. I guess ball striking in like his last 9 rounds, which is, 9 events. Nice showing from an approach standpoint and off the tee, plus distance, plus accuracy, which is why he's probably popping in the last handful of rounds. Not really competitive. Again, T31 at Pebble, T28 in Phoenix, T24 at the Genesis his last handful of times out. Russell Henley, not super surprised to see Henley here. I mentioned it's going to be super hard to build a model and not have Henley come out pretty high. And you could see top 10 basically across the board in a lot of these models, at least a lot of the stats. Let's see what we've had from Henley here of late. Now, didn't come last couple years here, but a nice run course history-wise. Last handful of years of playing this event. T24 in 18, T20 in 19, T8 in 20, T3 in 21, where he putted lights out. So he likes these greens. And again, right, Georgia Bulldog. This is a Southeastern guy. That makes sense. And look, he was competitive in at the Sony T4. Again, that's another Russell Henley track, shorter positional golf, awards, fairway finders and accuracy off the tee, setting yourself up. And again, there's something there for what we're looking for this week. Not a great showing at Pebble. Could not make a putt. Then T24 at the Genesis with a probably pretty, I would say, a pretty standard Russell Henley round in terms of all the strokes gained buckets. Adam Svensson. Svensson came out third in my initial model as well, and he's third here again. Andy Lack has him fourth in his model. This is the first guy here to highlight that I have already bet on this week. Now, we saw him looking at the FanDuel odds. Svensson was like, what is he, 40? I'm going to bring my face back in here for you guys. Oh, that's not the way to do it. You want less face, more model. That's good. All right. Yeah, so Svensson was 40. There's 55s out there in the marketplace for Svensson. Shop around. He has played pretty well here in the last handful of years. We had a Discord member, subscriber to Best First Golf. I mentioned this morning that he absolutely tore it up at this track back in 2015. It's been a while, but in Q School, and has played well. That's kind of translated into what he's done here of late. And again, like, he lost strokes putting. The putter's been bad for Svensson as of late, but last year he played all 4 of these Florida events and gained strokes putting in each event. So his Florida stuff is showing well. Now, again, you can just hover over that little icon here and you can get the filters of what we actually did. So again, this is just total strokes gained tee to green last 12 months. This one here is click out of that. That one here is where we did last 12 months. Oh, this is last 24 rounds. This one here is Florida. This one here is the less than driver off the tee. So again, if you get a bunch of these like strokes gain totals and you're forgetting what's what, you can click on this little icon. So you can see here, Svensson not killing it from a Florida standpoint, but again, still it's helping carry him, and he's real consistent. If you started to put in the approach buckets that I talked about, you're going to get a lot of Svensson there too. So interesting. There's plus money finishing position numbers on Svensson out there this morning as well, which again, I think is, basically plus 100 to T40. They're a pretty good bet from my vantage point here, with him populating again, pretty consistently in a different model, consistently in the top 5. Chris Kirk, your defending champ. That makes a ton of sense. He's going to populate pretty well in a lot of these categories. Rory, 5th in the model. Again, he's the putting here has not been great. You can see that's kind of weighing him down in terms of some of the rest of the stuff. 68th in this field with Bermuda putting as of late. Rory has not been here in a while, and he's ramping up for obviously an important time of the year. With API is, I know, been historically an important big event for a lot of these guys. When Arnie was around, they still like to go. The players obviously, and Rory. It always comes down to closing the loop on the Grand Slam. We have not seen Rory at Honda since 2018. He won it back when Rory won majors. No offense, Rory. That's a shot for Andy. Andy would definitely take a shot on Rory because he's not a Rory fan. But 2012, he won this event and withdrew in 2013. Came back in 2014, competitive again with a T2 finish. And missed the cut the next 2 years. And then came back 2018 was the last time he was here, T59. So paying top of the board price for Rory and a highly volatile event is just not something I'm interested in. And you got to make a decision on DFS sites this week. What do you do with Rory? It's kind of what you had to do with Finau last week, where he's just so far above everyone else in the field. Can you eat chalk, knowing that he basically needs to come in top 5 to deliver for you? So not for me. Sanjay 6, Shane Lowry 7, Keith Mitchell 8, Eric Cole 9, Cam Young 10. All of that makes a ton of sense to me. You can see this kind of captures what I was talking about. Sanjay last 24 rounds has not been great, and that's kind of knocking him. Otherwise, Sanjay here's again, even we're capturing that in the last 50 rounds here too. But a lot of these like specific bucket things that we did in terms of like less than driver, Florida, getting a lot of Sanjay. 40-1. Interesting. I've not pulled the trigger. Shane Lowry 40, also interesting. Again, shop that number. The putting has not been great for Lowry historically. Bogey avoidance kind of holding him back here as well. Not great. But again, he's fared well here and knows his track because he's talked about that. Plays it often. Back to some of the plays that I made. Keith Mitchell. He's 8th here in this model. I bet Keith Mitchell outright early on Monday when there were 50s and 45s out there in the marketplace. Basically 40 across the board on Mitchell right now, which I think is interesting. I don't know. I still don't hate it, to be honest. Again, when Mitchell plays well on the West Coast, it's kind of a bonus. And he's played pretty well, right? Could not make a putt early in the week and just struggled in general last week in Mexico. But he finished inside the top 20, second straight top 20 finish, and his 3rd in the past 5 starts. And again, we want him here. Tennessee guy, went to Georgia. He plays his best here in the Southeast. Again, ball striking, 4th in ball striking last week in Mexico. Again, lost 2.6 strokes putting in the first round, still finished T19. So played really well, and you could see he's getting rewarded for some of this, some of these Florida things, some of these off the tee things. Again, long and accurate. That plays very, very well. See Fitz here. Again, some of the tee to green stuff has not been great, but the other stuff really is. Fitz, again, hovering around 30, super interesting. there's some other interesting names. I'm not surprised that my third bet that I've made so far this week, and again, I've only made 3, a little bit of a lighter week because I talked about at the top, this carnage here. Look for some live ads, especially if you're watching this event. You can jump into some bigger numbers here. Interested to see. Okay. So Daniel Berger, not getting any because the sample size minimums that I put kind of prevented him from getting some of this stuff. So he's buried a little bit in the model, and that's okay. And you can see some of the other stuff makes a ton of sense. All right. What do we do with a guy that didn't play last year and has only played 9, 10 competitive rounds so far this year? It's tricky. And from my vantage point, I bet Daniel Berger at 50. And you can still kind of get 40s that are out there. So to me, the risk is baked into the number a little bit because Daniel Berger in form in Florida is probably in the Russell Henley range. He's definitely in that like 22 to 30 range, depending on his form coming in. Now, I was encouraged by what we saw a little bit last time out. Played decent and in Phoenix is the last time we saw him. We know he likes to play here in the Southeast, again, with the Florida States, and, is a Southeastern guy too. So, again, the risk to me is baked into the number. He is the top 30 on DraftKings at plus 115. I like that quite a bit too. If you're not an outright bettor and you just kind of want to look at finishing positions, I'll be interested to see who he's grouped with in terms of matchups. So, yeah, Berger being buried in the model, not super surprising, but again, it's a risk I'm willing to take here down the board. So, again, the rabbit hole is called the rabbit hole for a reason. It should lead you to do a little bit more homework. There should be some guys, especially if you're looking at from a DFS standpoint, some of these guys that are a little bit lower, or maybe some fades, right? Svensson 7,700. Then maybe we're going to get some chalky Svensson. Maybe that's a cash game thing. See some of the other guys here. You're not seeing even any other guys in the sevens. Doug Gim flirted a little bit with the top of the leaderboard last week, was an outright play for me. And putting has not been great here, but he's played some good golf in Florida too. So that's interesting. Look at Kevin Streelman. You need to do a little bit more homework on Kevin Streelman. 5,500 on DraftKings. Why is he 14th in the model? What's going on? What's his recent form look like? What's going on there a little bit? Sam Ryder, same stuff. Sam Ryder typically better on the West Coast, but maybe there's something to this. Putting overall on Bermuda, maybe that's noise. He is apparently a really good Bermuda putter. Again, he's just a good putter overall, but there's something there. So again, the rabbit hole should lead you into doing a little bit more work on, look, where do I need to go? Who is not catching my eye naturally, but who should be catching my eye here as well? So in the chat, Brian is wanting to know, mention Collie in Discord. Any thoughts? Well, let's look. Let's see what we got. We're talking about Bud Collie. You have to expand on that for me here, Brian. I did not see the message in Discord, but I am I'm not getting it. So let's see where he's at. But again, take advantage of this. We're even seeing like Bud Collie. It's played pretty well. Not been around for a while, but came back here with some Corn Ferry stuff. Played the Waste Management. Yeah, I mean, look, he is not. It's hard where we get from a DFS standpoint. I'll have to make sure he gets added to the fields because he should be in here. Or maybe he just, we have the one event because we haven't seen Bud Collie on tour since 2020. Did not putt well in Phoenix. And let's see, he's played Honda 2020, T42, T12 at 19. Yeah, to be honest, Brian, I'll do a little bit more Bud Collie research. We could chat. $5,100. It's going to save you some money there on DFS sites for sure. So again, check the show notes. You can get access to it for super cheap. As is, a month is already really cheap. A year is less than anything else that you want to find from a stats modeling standpoint. And we have picks, we have Discord, we have articles, we have research, we have things that you won't find elsewhere where you can model golf. So, and again, we are lower priced currently. So definitely worth checking out. Again, the $5 deal is going away as well. That's also going away in April. We'll probably have another deal similar, but it's not going to be for the rest of the season. So if you've been on the fence, I recommend checking that out as well. So, all right, jump in the show notes again. We talked about Pool Genius for one and done stuff. I'd fade Rory in one and done. That's my one and done advice and strategy for the week. Highly volatile tournaments. You probably want to use Rory somewhere else. He's also probably, depending on how casual your one and done is, because he is so far above everyone else in terms of like odds board, things that people use to make these decisions. People are want to, and winners have been hard to come by. People are want to bag a winner this week or cash a nice ticket. I'm personally not in on Rory from a one and done standpoint. So, I would, some of the guys that I bet on, some of the guys here that are at the top of the board, Eric Cole is probably going to also be very popular. It depends on maybe where you're at. I don't mind that one. But again, Keith Mitchell, I think makes a ton of sense. Daniel Berger, probably not that popular. I don't know. People are probably concerned. Svensson, very interesting. Kirk, Henley, probably very popular. Again, take advantage of the Pool Genius thing just for a week. Like, look, you don't want to buy it? Try it for a week and get it. You get help for this week and nothing else. So check that out. And again, subscribe to the channel before you leave. Appreciate you hanging with me for over an hour here. Over an hour, and I fell the show by myself because I can't shut up. But DFS show with Ron and Byron, the model maniac, will be on Wednesday afternoon. So my betting preview is up on the site. You definitely want to check out Ron's there as well. So for Andy, who's not here and traveling, we'll see everyone next time. Thanks, everyone.